Yeah, we're just getting to everybody else. So we've been sending out pictures. I know we're getting good pictures. No, you too. Give me that list because I have most of them.
You want me to button this up for you?
If you want.
Oh, or is it just not holding? No.
No, it's okay. Oh. It looks a little raggedy, I know. But...
No, we didn't want to put extenders on ours.
You all ready? Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you. Come around.
Your family, come on. Homicide. This is what happened to Dante Melton on June 24th, 2025. He was a 31-year-old man in the midst of a mental health crisis, begging for police to help. But instead of compassion, Baltimore City police officers restrained him, arrested him, mocked him, abused him, and left him to die on the street that night, that hot night. He cried that he couldn't breathe. He asked to go to the hospital, but it fell on deaf ears. Despite seeing that Dante was suffering from mental illness, and they all acknowledged it, no crisis-trained officers were called to the scene. Instead, he was taken to the ground, handcuffed, and left in a prone position in violation of the rules. While police finally called for a medic, EMS never came. 50 minutes. They never came. Officers stood around joking while he laid on the ground like trash as his life slipped away. And then, when they all recognized time after time, where's the medic, when they realized they weren't coming, officers put him in the car to take him to the hospital, despite a sergeant questioning the optics of it. And then, if you all read the stories, if you all looked at the records, it was a 30-minute gap from when he left and he arrived. The truth will come out. We'll find out what happened. But once he was at the hospital, despite the initial officer knowing his name, no one at the hospital was told his name, so Dante died alone and unknown. They never called his family. They never called his children, his parents, no one. The mayor and the Baltimore Police Department have tried to point fingers at each other and computer-aided dispatch system and saying it was broken. Well, let's be clear. It is no excuse. Either there was no backup plan in place for when the technology failed, or the officers chose not to follow it. Both are unacceptable, and both contributed to Dante's death. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm surrounded by people who love Dante, his family, his friends. Dante's mother's not here today because the grief that she's suffering from losing her child is something no one should ever learn, especially for no good reason. But the Melton family has authorized us to prepare and file a lawsuit against those responsible for his needless death. The lawsuit will be filed as soon as the Attorney General's investigation is complete. And the important part for those of you who have seen the video, there are those out there who witnessed this. I'm not talking about the hours of redacted videos that the police department has put out. We're looking for those of you who were standing there, who saw what was going on, who heard what was being said. We need you to come forward because the truth about this horrible tragedy needs to come out, not just the limited truth that we've been given. Dante deserves dignity. More than that, he deserved care that night. He didn't deserve to die, he deserved to live. Dante and his family deserves justice, and we intend to fight for it. I thank you all for coming here, and we will open it up to questions.
Is there any statement that the family would like to make?
So the family has asked during this time that they be given time to grieve. This has been a very traumatic, and as you all know, this was a difficult process, even getting the medical records of Mr. Melton. They denied him being at Grace Medical. We ultimately got it, and there's confusion about the records. So for now, they want to just understand, and because of the homicide that was announced last week, this has hit them very hard. They stand in support the lawsuit. They want justice to come out, but right now they don't want to address until the investigation is completed and they see that people do the right thing. One of the biggest problems, if you listen to the talk on the video, is Sergeant Jackson said optics. The optics of how this looks. Ladies and gentlemen, life is more important than the optics of what it means to a Baltimore City police officer. Optics shouldn't kill somebody. Optics shouldn't leave them lying on the ground when they know he can't breathe, when his pulse was shallow, when his breathing was shallow and his pulse was low. Optics shouldn't play into keeping somebody alive. Any other questions?
Can you talk about, you said there was a 30-minute gap. Can you talk about...
So the record, sure, sorry for cutting you off. The records from the hospital indicate a time. The record has made it very clear in a statement that they do not round up or down. That was the time that they claim he got there. Well, based on the body cam, we know when he left. So it's, at this stage, it's unclear. It could be a discrepancy with the timing of the body camera, but again, until we get the full truth, not a redacted truth, not a limited truth, we just don't know the answer to that.
What happened in that 30 minutes?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Any comment on?
I know that this is a difficult time for the family, and I want to thank you all for being here. I think something that might be missing from a lot of our coverage is understanding who Dante was as a person. Are you able to share a little bit more about?
So I can tell you in the time that I've gotten to know and meet the family, first and foremost, before we talk about mental illness, because that is not a noose around someone's neck, but he was a father, he was a brother, he was a son, he was a friend, he was a grandson. He was a likable, fun guy. He had issues that a lot of people in today's society have with mental health, but that doesn't mean they should be killed. And the problem comes too often when you start blaming other things. Instead of blaming yourself, instead of taking responsibility, which all too many people in today's world don't do, you're going to see that they're going to blame him. But ladies and gentlemen, he begged for help. The first words out of his mouth are, "Could you help me?" This was a guy who took care of people. He spent his life taking care and helping others, even though sometimes he needed help, like a lot of us do.
Any comment on the fact that all of the officers, except one who was injured himself, are still on active duty and
Yeah.
out on the streets right now?
So I would love to suggest I had an answer on all the police brutality cases we do and civil rights cases. I'd like to suggest that it is not the thought that they keep them on the force until such time that a trial is done, because they don't want to say, oh, well, you're now working at a Home Depot, not a police officer. But I can tell you that if justice isn't done within the ranks, I don't know where justice is ever going to be done. A lot of times, as you've seen, I've read your stories, you see these officers who continue to stay on the force, complaint after complaint, incident after incident. When is enough enough? There are videos. We've seen redacted ones, but there are videos that show people behaving in a way that you wouldn't want your worst enemy to behave that way to you, to your loved ones. It's horrible.
You mentioned homicide, and we know that the medical examiner has determined that mental health is homicide.
Right.
Any exact cause? Has any of that, have you been able to find out anything like that?
So, Barry, I'll tell you, don't get, it's interesting that, and timing is everything, especially for an office that has come under tremendous scrutiny over the last 20 years, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, but that they came out and were honest about the homicide. There's still another part. Why? What happened? And, you'll notice that, we're a few months later, and we are no more educated about what happened other than the brief snippets that we got. That will come.
And
What about this lawsuit? What do you expect to claim in the lawsuit? What types of things?
Sure. I mean, the law limits how and who can make claims to the whatever extent that we can, based on the knowledge we have now. We will take full legal action in the court standing behind us, because at some point this behavior needs to end. We all have children, we all have friends, we all have family. And you know, when I talk to the family, it's odd, time and time again, it's not people that look like me who are the ones that we're standing out here talking about being killed and abused. We're talking people who look different. But that's not an answer. At some point, this behavior needs to stop. The training needs, within the police department, the training needs to occur where they treat people like humans. Don't leave them laying on the ground. Don't make matters worse that happen here. Put them in a car. Don't worry about the optics. Get them. I'd far rather have optics of putting a living person in a car and taking him to a hospital than the optics of having a person dead many hours later. And by the way, the officer, Banner, you brought up, the officer went and got medical treatment at Mercy. You know, he didn't have a problem running and getting treatment, but they couldn't put Mr. Melton in the car.
Anything dealing with criminal charges or anything like that?
As you know, we can't file criminal charges. It has always been my hope, kind of in response to his question as well, it is my hope that anybody who sees these sets of videos would look and say, this is criminal behavior. I welcome it, not because it makes their family any, you know, nobody's going to snap a finger and bring Dante back. But justice is, let them be held accountable for their actions.
What do you know about the reason the medic didn't show up, this, I guess, technological malfunction?
So, listen, I was just saying, we right before we left to come here, our email account got hacked, okay? I had backups. Within seconds, I had a company on the phone and they cleared, you know, yes, emails went out to people, you know, not bad emails, but spam went out, but I had backups and the problem was resolved within minutes. When you point fingers at a system that you know is not working well, that's a problem in and of itself. And then when you know it's not working on this particular night and don't do anything about it, that's even worse. Listen, I have eyes, I have ears. If I was standing there, again, I don't care about the optics. I would have said, get him in the car, 2 minutes in, 5 minutes in. You were a stone's throw from the fire department, but you were minutes from the hospital. We live in Baltimore City. We have some of the best medical treatment in the world. Put them in the car, take them to any one of those hospitals, and it would have kept them alive. But they didn't do it. They waited, by my calculation, 47 minutes.
Would that mean, depending on what you learn about the communication system, that the police would not be the only defendant in the lawsuit?
So the answer is yes, but the computer-aided dispatch system, the CAD system, when you have problems, you know that real soon. But even if you didn't know it on a technological standpoint, you have eyes, you have ears, you're looking around and you know that a medic doesn't show up. That's enough. You don't need anything more. Get him in the car, get him into the hospital. Don't make matters worse on a hot night.
You mentioned you're planning to file after the OAG investigation
Sure.
concludes. Do you have any idea when that would be?
So I would love if things happened far quicker than I would wish that they would have given Dante's mother medical records a day or two or a week later. Things don't happen with the speed that I would like. It's very unfortunate. People know the answers. It just takes a while to get approval to put them out.
I assume that the content of that investigation would influence what you put into the
Of course.
complaint?
Yeah. That's how it works.
I
Yeah.
think you kind of mentioned in bits and pieces, but in summary, what does accountability and justice look like coming from the family?
It's to hold those accountable for killing a guy who didn't need to die. He needed help. If all they did was give him the help he needed, these people would not have lost a loved one. I wouldn't be standing here. You all wouldn't be here. But they didn't care. They left him on the ground like trash, and that's unacceptable.
Last week, there was a city hearing in regards to multiple deaths in police custody.
Right.
Commissioner Morley, he had said that promised to make all the new recruits within the police department have to go through that crisis intervention training, among some other promises. Do you have any thoughts in regards to?
Yeah. Again, why does it take the death of a black man to make a comment like that? Do it. We and other lawyers in my firm and other firms throughout Maryland and throughout, especially Baltimore City, time and time again, we stand up in front of juries and we talk about lack of training or poor training. They give it, but it's horrible, it's horrific, and they don't listen. And what happens is, to follow up on some of your questions, when those same officers violate the general orders, the police department orders, what do you think happens to them? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even if they get sued, they're still on the force. Even if they're still on the force, maybe they sit behind a desk for a little. But then the story goes away and they go back to doing what they do. No better off, not treating people with any more respect and dignity. This is unfortunate that it takes a death to do it, but I agree, yeah, they should be trained better.
Was there any sort of familiarity between any of the officers and Dante?
So that's another thing we're waiting on. I can tell you, as Ms. Good has reported, his mother, they have called the police for voluntary, issues. The reality is, I don't know if any of these particular officers were them. That's something an investigation will lead to. But again, you never heard one person say anything other than he was suffering from mental illness. They knew it then, and they know it now. There's something called a crisis intervention team. Pick up the phone, call them, get them out there. That's what you train these people for. They come out because others don't have the knowledge, training, and experience to deal with people the way they should who are suffering mental health crisis. Anything else? You all good?
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for being here.